Today we're going to look at brushes and how to use them. If we use a brush, we go into our toolbar, and there is a brush setting. Looks like a little paintbrush tool. We can hit B in the keyboard, that works as well. It won't work with like lines or erasers. We actually want to use the brush tool. I can click and I can drag my line to do something. Create a mountain or a valley or whatever you want it to look like. When you double click on the brusher panel, you actually do pull up a contextual menu. So if I double click the brush, it pulls up this menu. I can make it be very, very accurate. So it'll follow my keystrokes very precisely. So if I have a little wiggle or a little Parkinson in my pen ability, it will show every little quiver. If I want it to be more smooth, like a very kind of a smooth, clean line without all the extra pen points, I can actually smooth this up. And I'll show you what that'll look like. I'll go ahead and let me do a new line here. My brush, I'm going to do a lot of waves and make a lot of jiggles. If I also now go double click my paintbrush, go to my smooth option, notice it does kind of smooth it out. It does some automatic processing. Kind of smooths out all the rough, jagged parts. So if that's what you want, to have not smooth parts, go ahead and you can change that, double click and change your settings where you want to be. Once I have a brush stroke created, right now it is a line. We've done a lot of things with lines. I can of course go to my strokes and I can make it bigger or smaller. We've done this before. But I can also go into my brushes panel, and after I've drawn the fact, I can change my brush post drawing. And I can select some of these different presets. Brush strokes. So that line can look very different. I think we briefly touched on this at one point, but we really want to go into more detail now and have interesting brush strokes. On top of having that brush stroke, as I change the size, that'll also change how it looks, for sure.
Almost looks like smoke.
It does. It kind of this wispy brush, or looks like a zipper jean or something. You can do that as well. Once I have a few settings here, I can also load in a lot of different brushes. So if I go ahead to my libraries, right in the panel of my brushes, I can load in lots of different brush strokes that are actually built into Illustrator. Bristle brushes, border brushes, artistic brushes. Let's do chalk and ink. And I can have different ones. Once I click one, it adds it into my brushes. So this is from the panel. I can start to add these into my panel. And I can have some different artistic strokes. Which if I'm doing a drawing and I wanted to make it look like it's done with a particular technique, a particular brush stroke might help me get to that point. There may be times I don't want it, but for now, you have many different options in front of your brush strokes. Once you double click one open, you also have lots of different tools inside of that particular brush stroke to change if I want to mirror the direction, or if I want to change the color, or if I want to change how it's scaled. There's many different settings I can start to change in my effects. Resize it bigger, smaller, change the color to be instead of a black stroke, it's by default a different stroke. Lots of different things I can start to do in my settings. The direction it goes, up or down, all can be changed around.
Strokes in order to create our own type that can be
Customize it a little bit. Yep, you can take any, you can start with something. I find starting with something is much better than starting with nothing. Start to do some particular technique to it, and then you can customize that as well by opening up and changing some of the options inside here, the size, the end, different things you can change as well. It could be for, not necessarily for the t-shirt. It could be. At this point, the t-shirt's probably done, or you're wrapping it up. I don't necessarily go to this. But when we get into different types of balance and other things, we'll use some different brush strokes. It's just a tool to put in your tool belt for sometime down the road. Your brush strokes allow you to do some really cool things. On top of that, this will be near the last thing we'll do here. I have a brush stroke. Once I have a collection of brush strokes in here, and I have a number of them added to what was the default, I can save this library and export it to other things. Because if I go ahead and create a new document, I have now just the simple same brush strokes that I had by default. I don't have the other ones. My new document has the different ones that I created here. I can export these to bring them to the new one. I can go ahead and click the little hamburger, the little 3 dots over top of each other, and I can hit Save Brush Library. I can hit Save Brush Library. And then I can save them somewhere. I'm going to go and put my brushes. I'm going to save it brushes. You can name it whatever you want. Brushes. There you go. I don't know, like some type of accent from somewhere. I'm not sure where that would be. Brushes. And it's going to save it as a brush file, Illustrator file. So it's specific to Illustrator. Hit Save. Yes, I want to replace it because I already did it earlier when I was practicing. Once I want then on this new document, since I don't have some of my pieces already open, I can import or take that, what I just created, go to my brushes. I'm going to open a brush library. And there's, of course, the ones I have in my library. Or I could go ahead and I could search for other pieces. I go to Open Other Library, go to my downloads, and there's the ones I just created. So I import that, and now I have open in its own panel here all the brushes that I had in the previous document. So as you start to create your own brushes, you can add them or share them with people with the brushes file. Kind of like you have a color swatches file, you can also have a brushes swatches file, and to customize your brushes for any particular purpose. And it also works, now you can draw with a brush stroke, and then you can put that on, but you can also check if you have a square, a rectangle, a line, anything you create with the pen tool. It doesn't have to be done just with the brush stroke. We think brushes and brush strokes, that makes sense. But we can also then take in some random object that's created as a stroke or cylinder or ellipse tool or whatever. And we can start to add the outline, the stroke of that shape will also take in that particular line or stroke. Customizable. So there's a lot you can do with brush strokes. Now, if you're doing a design, an artwork piece, you could have your little cartoony figure that has an outline or stroke. You probably don't want to have some fancy looking outline. More than likely you could. There's nothing saying you can't. That has fancy looking piece for the outline of his body. But maybe to put like a little texture on his shirt or hairy arms or whatever, you could put textured with a brush stroke that might help to mimic that appearance. So don't think, how am I ever going to use this? Maybe it's putting texture or graphics or little illustrations onto an object or a person or a building. It would be like accent lines that you have the ability to just have really crazy control on your piece. Questions? Cannon's going off in your head. Just how? Okay, so over break, he's going to be thinking, how in the world can I use these brush strokes for my piece? He's not going to sleep at night, thanks to my lecture. The rest of you are like, I'm going to sleep hard. I'm going to sleep in. An alarm clock? What is that? I don't know. I'm going to enjoy a few days without an alarm clock. That'll be nice.